flyer about 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago now. And I don't think it was really well defined back then exactly what digital signage is. And now digital signage, as David was saying, kind of encompasses more than what we traditionally consider digital signage. But first step is for us to introduce ourselves. I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves first. If you guys can tell the audience who you are, who you work for, and what you do, sort of what your role is. Start with you, Jonathan.
So I'm Jonathan Braun, principal at Braun Consulting, industry educational development firm. We do industry education like digital signage experts group of certifications on digital signage, and we consult for a number of different manufacturers and distributors, including Almo.
Rich Ventura with NEC Display Solutions. I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing and Solutions Operations. I also sit on the Board of Directors for the Digital Signage Federation, so we supply hardware and technology services for partners like Almo.
Hi, my name is Carol Gordon. I'm the president of Touch Systems. Basically, the company evangelists out there sharing the technologies that we have to offer, where they play, and how to best utilize them in business.
I'm Brian Radigan. I'm a business development manager at Almo Pro AV with a specialty in digital signage and signal distribution. I do a lot of pre-sales design assistance for the Almo sales folks.
I'm David Keene, executive editor at New Bay Media, and we're a publishing company that publishes a lot of the trade magazines dealing with Pro AV and digital signage and broadcast television, anything AV related. We also publish the Infocom Show Daily, the NAB Show Daily, and the CES Show Daily. So we're basically publishers, anything AV, including digital signage, which is AV outside of a boardroom, in a classroom, or on a stage.
And for those of you who joined me this morning in my morning keynote, my name is Gary Kay. I'm the founder of a company called Rave Publications, and Rave is a publisher of news in the audiovisual space as well as digital signage space. A couple other places, but we're completely online, primarily digital media and social media based. So the first question is, I'd like to direct it to Rich from NEC, because number one, you're sponsoring the panel, but more importantly, you've been working, your entire life has been in digital signage the last 10 or 12 years in your sort of living digital signage in the company that you work for. And you pioneered a lot of the areas of digital signage now, like for example, in quick service restaurants and fast food signage and things like that. It's sort of like you to give us a sort of a baseline of where we are right now in the world of digital signage. Like what exactly does that mean right now, and where are we in 2014?
So when we started down the path of digital signage, first I had a lot of hair back then. It was no gray at all, and I think I was 14 years old when we started this thing. You know, the conversation was about, you heard the terms narrowcasting. You heard the conversation about, oh, I just want a TV. I want to run whatever information I can up on a TV. I want to plug a laptop in, kind of like how you do a projector. To today, we talk more of the systems that are designed behind it and how that ties into your back office, or it ties into interactive systems and your website. And it really comes down to the term that it's starting to get overused quite a bit, but it's really relevant, and that's omni-channel. When you talk in any of the vertical markets, whether it's retail, it's a restaurant, transportation, it's how do you tie in all the different channels that you communicate to your customers? Your website, your print, your radio, your television, your digital signage network. And it's much more of that and much more of the integration into your overall system. It's not just putting a screen on a wall and then walking away and hoping that it never goes down. It's how do you feed that beast, and how do you continue to grow that beast and get more information out there? And how do you tie it into everything you're doing, especially with more and more of us carrying more mobile devices. At a conference Gary and I did a few years ago, I asked everybody in the room how many people had a smartphone, and I think only 20% raised their hand. Now today I can ask who doesn't have a smartphone in here. I bet if maybe one or two people raise their hand, they'll kind of feel embarrassed because they don't have a smartphone. But we have those devices, so it's more interacting with that mobile piece now than it was even before.
So, speaking of interacting, Carol, I think you'd be a good person to sort of take this. I mean, not necessarily directly with mobile devices, but you make actually you take, in many cases, integrate NEC products and turn them into touchscreen products. Where is interactivity in all this? Like, what percentage of digital signage is interactive, and sort of where is that today as in 2014?
Well, as you know, digital signage covers a wide area. It could be something hanging on the wall as an informational piece, but when you bring that product down, you have the opportunity at that point to make it an interactive solution where you can engage the customer with brand awareness, affinity, etc. And it also plays in very well to what Rich was saying too with omnichannel marketing. I think it's a critical element to help create a well-rounded solution. We're seeing interactive displays in retail above and beyond the point of sale application. You see them in your local malls as wayfinding. We'll find them here in this convention center, disseminating information and giving us wayfinding opportunities and things along that line.
And David, you sort of started this discussion a little bit offline before we started this session, is that you sort of had a passing comment that everything is digital signage now. What do you mean by that? Or maybe I'm paraphrasing it, not exactly how you said it. Tell me what your definition of digital signage in 2014 is.
Well, and we've been covering the market for more than 10 years. And as Rich said, it's been going for more than that. I think a lot of people have a kind of misconception that digital signage refers to the technology in a retail world, in a shopping mall or a QSR, quick service restaurant, or all those kind of places that are retail stores or retail environments, and that's a huge part of the market. But there's so many things that are digital signage. Lobbies of corporations, internal-facing digital signage in a corporation that nobody sees unless you're an employee of that company. So I think now the term, and also because it is one of the hot markets in terms of products and services, the most growing market of AV, now you see a lot of services and equipment branded as digital signage. In the past, when a new flat panel came out, or any kind of new video processing unit or router or switcher, it was called an AV device. Well, now it's often branded as a digital signage display or a digital signage, media player, etc. So I think that the term has just come to encompass many things that I guess in the past we would have called AV.
Yeah. So what you're contending is that what we would have called before a small boardroom or small conference room application is becoming a digital signage application because we're using a digital sign in it, where we would have before used a projector, which is not traditionally looked at as a digital sign.
Yeah, and I used to define digital signage simply as again, the AV technology, but it's not in a boardroom or a classroom or here on the stage. That if you just take it out of that environment, then it's digital signage. But now, the AV world now is calling some of those other applications, like corporate, they're calling that digital signage because it may be used for a conference or a presentation in one setting, but then the same screens could be flipped to be used for digital signage when it's not in use for for that first primary use.
Right. So, considering other applications, Jonathan, you guys have a class. You've sort of pioneered the class, I should say, or the whole concept of tech-rating, which is sort of using, combining digital signage with interior design in a lot of ways, or even AV technology with interior design. Tell them a little bit about that, because those that didn't get a chance to attend that might be interested in that.
Sure. The whole concept, what David's saying is absolutely right. But when we take a look at digital signage, it's now about the application, not the technology, that is really driving what we're doing. Well, I think what we're starting to see now, and what Gary's referencing is a program we do, partnered with Almo, called the Art of Tech-Rating. And we didn't invent the word, although I'd love to give Melanie Kragma from Almo credit for it. She didn't invent it either. Actually, LG came up with it a number of years ago in partnership with TLC on the show Trading Spaces. And what they found out was, there's applications for technology beyond using it for technology's sake, where you use it as art. And so our seminar, we do a 1-hour program on trying to really show people, think outside the black rectangle. Don't just think about a flat panel or a projector, but start to consider using them as part of the decoration in a space. This can carry some digital signage functions, it can carry some communication functions, but primarily it's done as art. And you'll see some examples, especially Las Vegas, one of the ones that everybody talks about is the Cosmopolitan Hotel. If you ever get a chance to see it, their entire lobby is done up with displays that have nothing to do with advertising, what we traditionally call digital signage. It's an art installation where everything's coordinated with these columns covered in video wall displays, which absolutely look fabulous. But the concept is not what we would traditionally call visual communication or digital signage. And so that's what we're doing with that presentation, is trying to get everybody just to think about it. Think about how this becomes part of your space, not just a communications tool.
That's sort of where you blur the lines of what David is saying, is that it's really, 10 years ago, had that installation existed, it wouldn't have been called a digital signage installation, it would have just been called a creative application of audiovisual technology, right? And that's sort of what you're saying there? Yeah, so I think that's, and it is a great installation, if you do have a chance to go see it. And there are more and more hotels and more and more places around the world that are using projection technology as well as flat panel display technology as sort of artwork or design elements. So Brian, Almo's role in all this is to help focus the customer, help focus the integrator, and make the product available that is available to do what you want it to do, rather than sort of have this dreamy idea and not be able to pull it off. How best to describe that?
Well, that's actually a lot of what I do when I spend time during my day talking with resellers about our product offerings for digital signage. I mean, understanding the client's needs and what they're looking to accomplish is crucial. When somebody comes to me and asks me about which player do I need for this, then I'm going to answer that question with a bunch of questions as far as, well, what do you want to show on the screen? Are we doing zone content? Do you want to see live TV? Do you need RSS feeds? So, I mean, every situation is going to be somewhat unique. So we take the kind of a consultative approach and try and package them up with something that's going to best fit with their application.
And by the way, digital signage is not just flat panel displays anymore. NEC, actually, and DSE, y'all have a really creative display in your booth where you use a projection. And in a lot of cases, projection is a lot less expensive because the cost of a projector versus for the size-wise, for how many diagonal inches that you can get out of it for the same amount of brightness per square foot or however you want to measure it, you can get a lot more from a projector than you can from a flat panel direct display cost-wise.
Yeah, and the funny part is, I think actually Jonathan's dad was telling me this is right. I think I saw it was 20 to 30% of the market for digital signage is still projection based, and you're actually going to see an uptick in that in some areas because we're seeing more focus now on projection mapping. So not even just projectors inside of a building, but actually projecting on a building, and then mixed use, taking projectors and mixing them in with large format displays. So now you have best of both worlds. When we were in Amsterdam for the conference out there, when you went to the main conference center, it was this huge long row. I think it was like 12 projectors with I think it was a 2x8 video wall in the middle of it. It's totally showing two different complete sets of content. So it's multi-use, but projectors do deliver you more flexibility than displays because you can mount a projector pretty much anywhere. You can't really mount a display anywhere, even though we're making them lighter and lighter. There's still some restrictions when it comes from a mounting perspective.
Right. Also, you can do amorphous shapes with projection because of image mapping. And image mapping used to be relegated to $20,000, $30,000 projectors, and now companies like Epson and NEC have it built into $3,000 to $5,000 projectors.
You don't even have to go that high. And if you remember what we showed at DSC, we actually edge blended out 3 $500 projectors and made a digital menu board. So you can do things, and that was actually the equivalent of a 1x4 46-inch digital menu board. So there's a lot of flexibility out there because the software's gotten better to do that. The hardware's gotten a lot better to do that, and the computing processing power has gotten better and cheaper to do it as well.
So let's open up the floor to questions, because Lyle, can you wait till we get you a microphone? Do you mind if we can hear the question?
Picking up on your point, Rich, to what degree do you think the market is holding off because they know that there's more cost-effective technologies that will come as innovation continues to unfold? So to what degree are end users holding off their investment because they know there's something cheaper, better coming next quarter?
Well, it's kind of like the comment of when a person buys a boat, the best day of their life is the day they buy the boat, and the second best day of their life is the day they sell it. As soon as they take that boat out, you know something better is going to come out. So it's focusing on how you want to deliver and what you want to do with it. And we always have people always ask us, what's the ROI of this investment I've made? And really, when we have the conversation, it's less on that and more about the ROI. What's your objective going to be? Because once you establish your objective and you achieve your objective, then you're going to get ROI. So if you look at technology, if your objective is to do X, Y, and Z, and the technology is here today to do it, why not make the investment? Plus, most of the technology you look out there that goes into the digital signage space anyways is designed to be there for a longer period of time. I mean, if you look at displays now, we've got customers in the QSR market who are putting them in for 5 years. They're not putting them in for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. They're putting them in for 5 years. So they're willing to spend a little bit more money up front, knowing they're going to get the right technology now. Everybody's always going to think, well, if I buy this today, is something better going to come out tomorrow? But it's really, what's the focus of your overall program that you need to really have that discussion first.
Any other questions? Right here, no.
Hey, my main question is, where do you see 4K being used today, and how do you think the adoption is going to be over time? Is it going to be rapid, a slow pace? I'm just curious about your view on 4K.
Dave, do you want to grab this? Sorry.
Yeah, and you guys have all seen 4K at the trade shows. All the exhibitors, the flat panel makers have 4K, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. There's more than you think in deployment out there today. It's generally not a large network of many screens, and then they're distributing 4K content to the screens as they would normally do in digital signage, through some sort of IP delivery. So obviously we have the screens today. What we don't have is 4K distribution at full 4K resolution at 60 hertz. But most of the flat panel makers tell me that they're selling 4K panels out there. But typically they're going to be for, if not one-off, then an installation that's just using one screen or two screens or three screens. A very high-end retail outlet, for example. A high-end car dealership, something like that. And it's not rocket science to get 4K content, from a PC with the right graphics card to that 4K screen. But if you're talking about 4K distribution of 4K content through an IP system, that's further down the road. It's not here today.
The other area you run into struggle with is actual 4K content. Not everybody's doing 4K content. I mean, we can count on one hand with a lot of the key content guys that we work with who can really do true 4K filming, because most of those guys are actually filming it in 6 and 8K, believe it or not. But having that ability, it's still very expensive. That's the other problem that you have, is still the cost of entry for someone, like they were saying, for it to go wide, cost of entry is still way too high. If I'm going to spend, on a 46-inch LCD, I'm going to spend $800. Why would I spend $2,000 on a 4K version of it if that 1080p version of it does exactly what I need for digital menu boards, wayfinding, so on and so forth. We're generally seeing the 4K falling into that specialty boutique type of areas, maybe an area where they want to make a huge impression because it's a flagship store, flagship hotel, resort. But I think once the video distribution gets better and the content gets more readily available, that's going to help with adoption, and the prices need to continue to come down. There are systems out there like BrightSign's launched their 4K player, and that's gotten some very strong reviews. So there is technology there, it's just not where we need to get.
And that's specific to those answers were all specific to digital signage. Keep in mind, there's a lot of applications in 4K outside of digital signage, more traditional AV. So you have a question, can we get the microphone up here? Around the front?
Jonathan, the tech rating concept, what type of customers are embracing that, and what's their justification? That's a real expensive wallpaper.
That's a great question, and it varies. The customers that we see, that at least we've been contacted, we've worked with, you tend to see that used for high-end hospitality like the Cosmo Hotel. You'll see that in high-end corporate lobbies. I'm actually working on a current project where they're looking at what they call digital wallpaper, which is the same concept. It's decorating, but they said, look, it's our world headquarters. We're a Fortune 500 company. We don't care what it costs. So it's not something you're going to necessarily see introduced in every single customer. But something Rich said kind of leads directly into wider adoption of something like decorating. Those inexpensive projectors, they're now starting to be able to do light mapping. When you look at some of these ultra short throw projectors that you see, where we can get the projector almost right against the wall that it's being projected onto, you know, that starts to open it up, and the technologies are rapidly becoming more affordable. So some of these advancements that we're talking about in projection that help with digital signage also really help embrace decorating, where light mapping is ideal for that, and those kinds of things. And also that mixed use example, this started to emerge for House of Worship, where they would take the front of the sanctuary and they'd have a large single display, oftentimes front projection, but then they'd use additional projectors to wash general decorating type content around that single message. And when you start seeing those products be more common, then people start to see that and go, huh, that's kind of cool. Can I do that in my lobby? And so we're seeing more and more of that, where it's an extension. Even simple uses of creative lighting, like putting bias lighting behind displays would be an example of that. So at the highest end, you're right, that's real expensive wallpaper. And it's going to be a high-end customer requires that, unlike the 4K displays. But there are technologies now that are making it more accessible, and it's moving more. But primarily you see that in things like, anytime you've got an experience, so high-end retail, restaurants, corporate lobbies, House of Worship, hospitality, anytime it's all about the customer experience, that's really what you're helping enrich with those kinds of technologies.
A lot of the, I'm sure you all know by now, this show is co-located with the International Sign Association's International Sign Expo, which opens, I think, officially tomorrow, fully. So we have this segment of the market that has traditionally played for dozens of years now in the traditional sign market. We tend to call it static sign market, but they don't walk around calling themselves static sign companies. They're traditional sign, everything from logo signage to billboard signage to poster signage and so on and so forth. I had a meeting earlier today with the president and CEO of ISA, and she said that for the past 2 years, the largest trend that they've seen is among their members is moving towards dynamic signage or digital dynamic signage. So if you're someone here who's from ISA and has been historically in the static signage market, and you're now listening to a panel of experts, why don't, from each panelist, give them some, one piece of advice of how they could get into the digital signage market without breaking the bank, and a simple way of getting into it. Starting with you, David.
Yeah, and we get this question a lot, whether it's from static signage people or from AV people that are doing other AV and they've never done quote digital signage. So, my advice is go to the big companies that provide big pieces of the solution, and that could be an NEC that has displays, or Samsung, or a software company that's doing the content management system for digital signage. Go to those people, and they often have an inroad. Those companies have an inroad to the market, and partner with them, or with a company like Almo that again is providing equipment and training out there. And that's the best way, I think, for a newcomer to the market to get into it, is to go to those big entities that have an inroad into the QSR market, or one of a very solid piece of digital signage.
Brian, I'm guessing you're going to agree with that.
Partnering is going to be crucial. I would also recommend getting at least some basic training in networking, because you're going to have to be talking to network folks when you're hanging digital signage devices on the network. So there's various resources available for that. Partnering is going to be huge, whether it's with a value-added distributor or with a content management provider. There's a few hundred solutions out there, so pick one or two and get to know them very, very well, get to know the rep well, and take advantage of your resources. And the other thing I would say too is, it's kind of obvious, let's start small. Don't, in the beginning, start with maybe a local pizza shop or a bar or a restaurant, and then do these one-off projects to help get some experience before you dive into some larger projects.
Carol?
Well, these guys pretty much covered everything that I would otherwise say. I think the other piece of advice is engage quickly, right? It's an evolving market. There's plenty of opportunity. Some of your customers today are probably getting their signage from somewhere else, and if you have good relationships, it's a great opportunity for you to step in. Engaging with an organization like Almo, I think, brings quite a bit of value. They're going to help you to find who's going to be the best partner for your business and what you're looking to do. They will work with the display manufacturers to help expose you to simple training as well, things that you can do online after hours if necessary. But my piece of advice is don't delay.
So what everybody's said, I mean, it's pretty much the same things we share with everybody. Partnering is probably one of the biggest things. Go small. Don't start off too big. Don't go knocking on Coca-Cola's door tomorrow and say, I got an idea called digital signage and I want to do it on one of your locations. Trust me, you're going to go out of business before you do that meeting. The other thing is, there's associations out there that can help you. A lot of us belong to what's called the Digital Signage Federation. They have tools that can help you. There's DSEG, which is a training program that the Bronze do. All of those things are going to help you be educated. This isn't a simple hang and bang. If you want to do it as a hang and bang, you do it as a hang and bang, you're not going to grow your business. And the other thing is create a tiger team. Don't try to do everything in-house on your own. Find a content creation company who can help you. Find a content management company, spring company, all those different pieces. Don't have to have it all in-house. You try bringing it all in-house, you're going to build this huge infrastructure and not have enough business to help keep it afloat.
Okay, going last, they covered almost everything I would normally say. You know, one of the things, Braun Consulting has been acting as advisors to the International Sign Association on digital signage, because there's dynamic digital, as they'll frequently call it. And the concept is this is another extension of signage. So one of the things that I want to tell anybody is don't let it bother you. Don't let it concern you. One of the things I see when I attend this show, and I've been doing this for the last 4 years, is I hear a lot of people come up and say, basically, this scares me. Don't be intimidated by digital signage. It's a lot of complex technologies that today don't have to be as complex. Partnering is great. Obviously, I'm going to sound a little self-serving, I think education is incredibly important. Whether you get it from our organization, the Digital Signage Experts Group, or not, as Rich said, there's some great industry associations here to support you. Really learn what you're trying to get yourself into before you jump into it and start making investments. I agree, start small. Focus on a few core verticals. Don't try and do digital signage for everybody. Look at your business and see what you're good at. If we're medical people, focus on medical digital signage. If we're dealing with a lot of education, it's great. Stick with your core market and focus on delivering a focused package to that group of customers. And chase down good partners. There's lots of great outsourcing. I hear too many people say partnership. Isn't that a bad word? No. Okay, the folks sitting up here with me would undoubtedly agree. You've heard it all. Definitely look at people who can work with you to support parts of your business you don't feel as confident in. There's installation partners, content development partners, software displays. Find the people who can support you and focus on working with them so you can do what you do really well.
Yeah, one thing I'd add to that is the audiovisual industry understands the technology that you don't understand. And the static signage people understand the creative that the AV people don't understand. So actually, there's great value in both the audiovisual companies partnering in the static signage companies and working together, because we can use the creative and you can use the technology aspects of it that we know really well. So I would encourage both organizations to become members of each other's organizations. I would encourage all the members of that are the AV community to become members of ISA, because ISA does have over 25,000 members and a great membership directory. And then I would encourage the ISA people to become members of the Digital Signage Federation as well.
I'm one of those guys that is looking at this as a new market for my business. My question is, where do I get support so that I can support my customer and understand what I'm actually talking about so that I can actually sell these products to them? I don't know where to begin. I want to get into it, but I don't know where to start.
Support for what? Define what you mean by support.
Support as far as understanding the technology, and I'll give you an example. I do a lot of business with a local hospital. I also do some business with, I just started with McDonald's as well. They just did digital menu boards in one of their stores. They've got the franchisee that I'm dealing with has 10 stores. Spent $65,000 on a 5-panel menu board. And I kind of thought that was excessive. I don't know the business, so I didn't say anything. I just listened to him. I don't know what to present to him. He's got 900 stores. I think it's a great opportunity for me to push my way into this business, and that's why I'm here. So I don't know who to talk to so that I can begin to understand this technology, so that I can turn around and begin to say, my district manager, I was upstairs, with a lot of those companies that are, selling different products. But again, I'm really coming to this agreement.
Well, I mean, I think I'd throw this to Brian and to Jonathan.
Yeah, that's what I had in mind. I mean, I don't know if you currently do business with Almo or not, but one of the values that we bring to the table is tying all of the vendors that we carry together, how the products integrate together, helping you successfully design systems that are going to work together, and then also through organizations like Jonathan's for more broad training.
Yeah, that's going to sound like a commercial. I hate that. I do apologize. But one of the things I would recommend is visit the Digital Signage Experts Group. We've got a great subsidiary program to get a discount through Almo if you like on the program. But take our Digital Signage Certified Expert program. We've collected 17,000 or so people in all of our different certifications in 64 countries as we sit here today. And it's become a very widely accepted digital signage education program. In fact, the team at Almo are all digital signage certified experts certified. So that's a great place to start for education. And some of the trade groups, like Rich mentioned, the Digital Signage Federation, that's a lot of information that can help get you started. So when you go to a partner like Almo to start putting together the pieces, when they start talking about different products and things, you know where they're going with that.
And the other thing is that I'm not sure how familiar you are with Almo, but in addition to partnering with them and them helping you understand the hardware, but Almo also has content creation services as well. So they can actually help you with the creative. The McDonald's thing, as Rich will probably tell you, that is done top down. Somebody at McDonald's decided exactly how this is going to be done. And if you want to get part of that, well, ultimately, what's probably going to happen is McDonald's is going to step in and standardize it for all their franchisees at some level, or McDonald's is generating the content and they're in charge of just getting the hardware.
They're doing the content as well.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with an account like McDonald's. The only reason I can speak to this is we're actually deploying McDonald's right now. It is going to be pushed from the corporate level to all franchisees. So when you deal with a franchise organization like that, like a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Wendy's, so on and so forth, that, they'll give some leeway where the franchisees start doing things a little bit, but eventually what happens is it all gets wiped out because corporate will actually intervene and will say you have to do this, because that's what our brand is specifying. So when you're starting off on something like this, I always recommend try to stay away from a brand like that. Maybe do small local brands because you're going to have more opportunity for your services and more value add and be able to deliver more and not get knocked out because corporate steps in and says, this is what we're doing now, you have to go into this program.
See, I wasn't looking at McDonald's as a large scale. I was looking at just these additional 10.
It's likely that group of 10 is going to be told, you got to change it to what we want it to be eventually. I just don't know their schedule. Go ahead. Jan has a question.
Yeah, this is actually kind of almost a follow-up to that because, you just personally, you visit, say, some Dunkin' Donuts and you see that they're moving to NEC displays. So my curiosity is more about, is that happening on a national level, regional level, and how long does that process, did that process take for them to get signage started, and besides your hardware, maybe what other hardware is involved and how are they controlling that signage?
So the QSR industry is a load of fun. We kind of pioneered into that space and were the first ones to really go full bore focus into the QSR space. QSR is really unique in that there's three ways that you sell into this market. You have franchise organization, corporate owned companies who are 100% corporate owned, or you have the mix where it's going to be franchise and corporate. I'm sorry, quick serve restaurant. So McDonald's, Burger King, the brands. So what you run into is When there's a brand like a Dunkin' Donuts who's going to be relaunching their entire brand and refocusing their brand, it's driven from their corporate level. And that process took about 3.5 years of testing and then figuring out what software they wanted. The screens were an easy part of it. It's the software, it's the back end, it's the delivery of the content, it's the content creation, it's all those pieces that really take those big brands a long time. Generally, if you deal with a brand that has more than 250 locations, you're looking at about a year to 2 years before they're going to get through the whole cycle before they even start a rollout. Burger King, if you go to every Burger King, they're 100% digital menu boards. Burger King was a 5-year project. McDonald's is going on now from when they launched McCafe to now close to 5 or 6 years. And they're still not 100% digital. The only brand that's 100% digital in the industry right now is Burger King. It is a long sales cycle for those brands. Now, when you go into the smaller locations, a guy with 10 locations, 20 locations, 50 locations, or a smaller brand that maybe has 200 locations that are 100% corporate owned, you tend to be able to maneuver a little quicker within those brands. But the really big brands, above 500, it's a long, long sales cycle.
So in the case of Dunkin' Donuts, what player or what software?
It's public knowledge because they talk about it quite a bit, but they're using NCR Texas Digital for their software. So that's all maintained and monitored through that relationship with NCR Texas Digital. And it is a system-wide. It's the entire Dunkin' system is on one centralized system.
Yeah, they've connected their point of sale system to it so that they're not pushing something that they don't have in stock, for example. So it's very integrated type. So that's what most of these QSR places are doing, is that they're not pushing, they're pushing stuff they need to push based on what inventory is showing and based on what inventory is selling and what time of day it is and that kind of stuff. It's very, very complicated integration.
Yeah, and with software you have to be careful in the quick serve space. When you're in that big of a brand, they want full integration. They want integration into inventory, they want integration to their point of sale, they want integration into limited time offerings, they want integration to their website. They want all those different levels of integration when you're dealing with a brand that big. And they tend, at first, say they can do it themselves, and then they realize they can't. And that's when companies get bogged down really quickly.
Other questions? Okay, go ahead.
Just to piggyback on the software side, is there any one software recommended for like a smaller scale operation or for easy learning curve from a static signage to the digital?
David, why don't you take that question? Because we see a lot of these companies out there.
Well, first of all, I would say that, that's the toughest part when you're new to digital signage is to, which software, which content management software. Because, hardware, whether it's NEC screens or Samsung screens or, media players from BrightSign or whomever, they have specs and it's kind of, you get what you see. But software, software is squishy, and it's hard to analyze. So that's the most common question. I cannot really give you we have to be sort of Switzerland, so I can't really recommend software. But, you just have to break it down into the different camps. You have to break it down into the web-based pull-down content management system that's very easy to deploy. So there's that camp of software. Then there's premise-based software that's installed on servers. So you really have to focus on what you want to do. You have to start with what you want to accomplish with the software and then start narrowing it down. And again, in order to answer the question, I would, again, go to some hardware partners, like Almo or NEC, because, they deal with all these software solutions, and ask them what they would recommend for that application. But there's no one size fits all with software. It really depends on what you want to accomplish, whether you're doing 2 screens or 2,000 screens.
Yeah, I think that's the value of Almo, is that's the starting point. There are 3 or 4 companies on the show floor here who have CMS systems and creative software systems integrated into their media players or displays. Like, for example, Samsung has a media player integrated into the display that also has some content creation capabilities. NEC takes a slot that allows you to use any third-party sort of computer-based system. And then you have companies like BrightSign, who's upstairs, that has a player that has integrated software in it. So you have lots of options here. But I'd start with your Almo rep.
Well, I'm an integrator, and I've sold a lot of small projects that are digital signage. And it's kind of piggybacks off of his question. I kind of want your opinion. I tend to tell my customers, when it comes to choosing your hardware and choosing your software, it's about capital. You're either going to spend capital on something that costs you a lot of money now and not have to spend as much capital in human capital trying to maintain it over the term. And so I say you can either spend money on hardware now, software now, and get something that's easy to maintain, or maybe go a little bit cheap on hardware and software and have something that's going to require somebody to maintain it, many more hours to maintain it than if you hadn't spent money up front.
I agree wholeheartedly on that. I mean, coming from a display company, you know, we get the conversation of, I'm going to buy a TV at Best Buy. And so we have to go through that argument. I mean, they're not designed for this application, and you're going to have to replace it over time. And, you know, like Dave was saying, it's hard to nail down all the software guys, and actually Alan and I were kind of doing it in our hands, thinking of some of the easy ones that are out there. There's, I think last count, 300 software companies?
About 600 right about now. Yeah, it's a stupid number. And telling which one, I mean, you know, Rich and I were doing a quick, I got your list, you got, what you think? We're coming up with 4 or 5 and going, you know, we actually agreed on all of them too, which is kind of funny, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're looking at it from, it comes back to that discussion I said earlier, ROI. I mean, what is your objective? If your objective is just to have a sign up there and all you're going to do is welcome your employees and to say, welcome to my office every day, that's all they're going to do, you can do that with PowerPoint. But if you're looking at having where you're going to add in weather, you're going to add in feeds, and you're going to add in different things, you need to look at what options are out there. BrightSign, I mean, mentioned BrightSign is a great package. Rise Display is another one that's out there. I think we said, 11 Giraffes. Capital Networks is out there. Signage Alive. There are packages out there. The key is go to your Almo partner, and they'll be able to make recommendations. And a lot of times they'll even go out there and they'll do straw polls with a lot of the people in the industry and say, who's the newest guys that are out there that are offering new packages?
I would just make one more comment. And I agree with what you said that, you know, you don't want to sort of underspend now and then have to pay for it down the road. But I think that digital signage is one of the verticals, if you want to use that term, where we often see the opposite, to where people tend to underspend on hardware now, and then they pay the price later. You know, they go and buy cheap displays from Best Buy, and then they have to go back and they put in commercial grade later, and they end up, you know, paying double or whatever. But oftentimes people buy more software than they need because they can't really understand software, and so they tend to buy a more expensive software package for digital signage, and they end up not utilizing it. They could have made do with a simpler one, because frankly, a lot of content for digital signage, you know, they're not maxing out the capabilities of the system. The content is usually pretty simple for most digital signage. So, yeah, I guess I would just say, don't overspend on software. I think that's a big mistake. Is people are going out and buying some massive software package. And sometimes they can't even figure out how to use it all, unless they go to some expensive training to learn how to use the software. So keep it simple when it comes to software.
To the gentleman that's interested in digital signage, Infocom Vegas in June. It's a great place to learn.
Any other questions? Okay, so I want to throw one thing out, and just don't all have to answer this question, but this will kind of close with this. Do you have if you were to be sitting on this panel 5 years from now, what do you think the big thing in digital signage would be? And I think that'd be a good way of closing this. Like if you were sitting here right now, 5 years from now, because you had an interesting view on it, David, that digital signage is really just it's more of a marketing term now, sort of describing everything that has to do with AV in a lot of ways, or a lot of what has to do with AV. But what is digital signage 5 years from now?
If I had to take a stab at it, I think a lot of it is going to continue along the lines of interactivity with mobile devices and having users engage with the signs, not just things that they're looking at. I think that's going to grow exponentially over the coming years.
Okay. David?
Yeah, and, again, getting back to, because, digital signage for a corporate environment, a university environment, airport, it's fairly straightforward, but sort of the holy grail of digital signage, whether, you're a vendor or a service provider, is retail, it's a retail world. So again, when you go shopping in a mall or any kind of shopping environment, that's the holy grail. What will that digital signage look like? And will you be able to, will the brands be able to cross-promote between web, between digital signage, between your cell phone? Will you be able to use your cell phone to sort of control the digital signage or interact with the digital signage? So that really is the future. And there's just so much that's up in the air. Near field communication was a big thing a couple of years ago. It hasn't really happened in the retail world. So I think that 5 years from now, I don't know, it's hard to predict. Will consumers really accept interactivity between their cell phone and digital signage in a retail environment? It's up in the air right now. I really couldn't predict it. How they're going to be able to integrate all the applications to work seamlessly between cell phones and digital signage. I think that where it is taking off, and I think it's a good area to watch, is in the sports world. So in other words, live sport events, stadiums, basketball arenas. Go to those today, and you'll see the future really starting to take off there, with use of beacons. The use of beacons in a retail environment or a public environment like a sports stadium is going to take off, and is actually placing the beacons around a venue that is able to personalize content to that area or even to your device. So I think that's just Google the word beacon and digital signage, and that's the future.
Carol, do you want to say anything?
No, I think these guys really covered it all. I think that it comes back to the interactivity element of it, whether it's a handheld device, whether you're physically engaging with the display, digital signage will be more immersive. That would be my question.
Rich?
The big term that's starting to be thrown around lately a lot is the Internet of Things. And that's really what it's going to be, is everything's going to be tied to the Internet. I mean, jokingly, you can think of your dental floss is going to have a little signal inside of it. When it's almost empty, it's automatically order dental floss for you, and Amazon's going to have a little drone come and drop dental floss at your door. But the Internet of Things actually is realistic if you think about it. I mean, there's a reason why somebody spent, what was it, $1 billion to buy Nest? I think it's how much they spent to buy Nest. Tying in all those things, and everything has to be connected. Digital signage has to be connected. There's no longer this idea of sneaker wear, which was how we started digital signage, which was basically saying, if I wanted to change content, I'd do it on a thumb drive, send it out to wherever it needed to be done, plug the thumb drive in, update the content, and done. It wasn't on the network, wasn't on anything. That's no longer the case. So everything's going to be tied there. So interact with your cell phone, because your cell phone's going to be on the same network that digital sign is going to be. Having a digital sign on your shopping cart now, and that can be having your shopping list, but also as you're walking down areas, it hits a beacon that's in a certain area and all of a sudden runs an ad for a certain type of cereal. All of those are going to happen. I mean, it's, if you think about it, it really could end up being like Minority Report. We could have signs on everything. And some of that stuff is actually truly happening today. I mean, there are cameras in almost every retail establishment you go in right now, and they know where you're walking in the store, and they know what you're buying. Now they're going to have that more of the digital signs, and they're going to be able to change that content because you're wearing an orange shirt, and they want to sell something that matches your shirt.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of scary how much Rich and I think alike sitting here. I agree. I was going to go with the Internet of Things, but since he beat me to it, that connectivity, that seamless experience is going to be something that's going to expand. But also, I think he hit on one of the key factors that's driving a lot of our technology, analytics. Okay, digital signage is about dynamic messaging, right? We want to get the right message to the right person at the right time to influence a behavior. One way or another, that's what we're trying to do, whether it's advertising or not. And so having intelligent signs that know what's going on around them, that know that these types of demographics of people are present in a space at a given time, that understands traffic flow, that understands even down to personal preferences. It's kind of Big Brother, and it is a little scary. And Minority Report's a good reference. I was going to go there also, but he's getting all my good material. But honestly, think about it. Where when I walk into an environment and the sign knows it's me, and it knows that I've got some preferences based on data, they're already capturing about me, about my shopping habits, where I'm getting messages that are meaningful to me specifically. Yeah, some people get uncomfortable at that concept of loss of privacy, but I go, well, I don't want to see an ad I don't care about. They're going to show me ads anyway. That's the way a lot of this is funded. So I want to see things that are targeted. And I think that's going to be a lot of the things that's going to drive the future of this technology, is that kind of targeting, is that messaging, where we know we're capturing data on traffic, we're capturing data on presence in the space, we're capturing demographic data, age, gender, those kinds of things that are publicly available, and analyzing them. When we get to being able to do that in real time and adjust our messaging, I think that's definitely going to be something we'll see in the next few years.
Yeah, I think, just to throw one other thing out there, I think that because I believe, and I've said this for 5 years, starting 5 years ago, I said in 10 years from today, this is what digital signage will be, so now we're 5 years away. It will be the advertising industry. Greater than 80% of the advertising money being spent will be spent on a digital display. It's already shifting quite a bit. We've gone from an 80-20 mix of television and other now down to television being right above 50% now. So we're seeing a lot of money shifting away from, even though we're growing channels, into DOH. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And the one thing I would disagree with is I don't believe we're going to be carrying around cell phones 5 years from now. I think you're going to be surprised at how fast that becomes it changes quite a bit, where we're using phones to make phone calls, and there's all these other devices that are around us that we're using for accessing content. So I think we're going to go back to using phones for phone calls that may be built into things. Like those of us who wear glasses, the headset will be built in, and that other device is on us all the time that allows us to browse. Maybe not like Google Glasses, but some other devices there. And because of that, to marry all of what y'all said together, content will be sent to us customized all the time. And so we won't have to worry about throwing content that's customized to you because that guy doesn't care about it. It'll just be on our individual devices. So we're going to be in a world of personal information displays. The large format displays will be used just to splash advertising everywhere to replace television advertising, because they want to replace the one-to-many advertising that's television. But what will happen is we'll walk in a room like this 5 years from now, and all of it can be an ad if we choose to make it an ad, or Melody can pay a price to turn it all off during the session. Other than as soon as the session is over with, as David sort of indicated with a room that you can use digital signage like that, this room will become one giant ad again when the session's over. So that's where I sort of see that.
Gary, I have one prediction for today, and that is, I bet a lot of people in here would be interested in a tasty cocktail, which is going to be right next door at our reception, sponsored by ABC. So I'd like to thank all of our panelists. This was a great panel, don't you think? Round of applause.